Most people destroy their own power without ever noticing it, not by being weak, not by lacking intelligence, but by talking too much. Every explanation given, every emotional reaction exposed, every attempt to make people understand you, gives people another piece of you to control. And the terrifying part, you were trained to believe that was a virtue. From childhood, you were taught that transparency is honesty, that vulnerability creates connection, that good people explain themselves. So you became predictable, readable, emotionally available, and little by little, people stopped respecting your presence because they learned there was no mystery left in you. Think about the people who truly intimidate others, the ones everyone watches carefully, the ones nobody casually disrespects, the ones who never seem desperate for approval. Are they usually loud? No. They speak less, reveal less, react less, and somehow they control the room without even trying. Why? Because silence creates psychological tension. When people can't read you, they start studying you. When they can't predict you, they become careful around you. And when they realize they cannot emotionally control you, respect appears automatically. That is the hidden law nobody says out loud. The world does not reward the person who reveals everything. It rewards the person who remains emotionally composed while everyone else loses control. And once you understand this, you begin to see human behavior differently. You stop over-explaining. You stop defending every decision. You stop reacting to every provocation like your dignity depends on being understood. Because powerful people understand something most never will. Not every battle needs a response. Not every accusation deserves clarification. And not every silence is weakness. Some silences are warnings. Centuries ago, strategists understood that power often belongs to the person who can remain unreadable under pressure. The person who stays calm, while others become emotional. The person who reveals nothing while observing everything. And in this video, you're going to learn exactly how that changes the way people treat you. You're going to understand why emotional unpredictability creates authority, why constant availability destroys value, why the people who talk the most are often respected the least, and more importantly, you're going to understand how silence can become a form of psychological control, not through manipulation, not through aggression, but through presence. Because when a person no longer feels the need to explain themselves to everyone, something shifts. They stop chasing validation, they stop performing for acceptance, they stop needing to be liked, and that is usually the exact moment people begin to fear losing them. So before we begin, ask yourself one question. What would happen if you stopped explaining yourself completely? Write this in the comments. My silence has power. Number 1. There's a reason some men walk into a room and instantly get tested, while others walk in and nobody dares cross certain lines. It's not height. It's not money. It's not even confidence in the way people think. It's something colder than that. It's psychological presence. And most men lose it without realizing it, because they've been trained to constantly explain themselves. Watch what happens every time someone disrespects you. You rush to clarify your intentions, defend your decisions, explain your emotions like a lawyer begging a jury to understand your side. That's not what I meant. You misunderstood me. I was only trying to help. You think you're solving the tension, but what you're actually doing is exposing your nervous system to people who are already measuring your weakness the moment you reacted. Think about the last time someone ignored your boundaries. Maybe it was a woman replying dry for days while still keeping you around for attention. Maybe it was a friend subtly disrespecting you in front of others just to test your reaction. Maybe it was your own family treating your time like it had no value. And what did you do? You explained yourself. You tried to be understood. You gave speeches when silence would have said more. That's the trap. Most men have been conditioned to believe emotional transparency creates respect, when in reality, uncontrolled transparency destroys tension, and tension is where authority lives. People don't consciously say it out loud, but they feel it instinctively. The man who always explains himself feels emotionally available. Safe, predictable, easy to manage. They know exactly how to provoke him, exactly how to guilt him, exactly how far they can push before he folds into another emotional explanation. And once people know there are no consequences for disrespecting you, they stop valuing your presence. You become useful instead of respected, convenient instead of important. Familiarity kills psychological weight. Now compare that to the man who doesn't immediately react, the one who hears disrespect and goes quiet instead of emotional, the one who doesn't chase after being understood. Have you noticed how uncomfortable silence makes people? A calm stare across the table creates more pressure than 10 minutes of arguing. Suddenly they start over-explaining themselves. Suddenly they start backtracking. Suddenly they become aware that they may have crossed a line they don't fully understand. That's power. Not loud dominance. Not fake alpha theatrics. Controlled unpredictability. A man becomes dangerous when people can no longer read his emotional patterns. When they don't know whether he'll forgive, disappear, detach, or simply never look at them the same again. Most men are too available, too expressive, too easy to decode, and the brutal reality is that human beings rarely respect what they completely understand. Mystery creates value, scarcity creates tension, emotional control creates authority. That's why the nice guy keeps getting ignored while the colder man keeps getting remembered. One is constantly trying to earn approval. The other behaves like he can walk away at any moment. And whether people admit it or not, they respect the one who can leave. Because underneath all social behavior is one brutal truth most people never say openly. People treat you based on what they think they can get away with. The moment you stop over-explaining, something shifts. Your words gain weight. Your silence gains presence. Your reactions stop being entertainment for other people. You stop moving like a man seeking permission to exist and start moving like someone completely comfortable being misunderstood. And ironically, that's when people finally begin to respect you. Number 2. Most men are terrified of silence because silence exposes reality. The moment conversation dies, the mask starts slipping, the nervous energy rises, people begin revealing themselves without realizing it. That's why weak men rush to fill every quiet moment with explanations, jokes, emotional reactions, nervous talking, anything to avoid tension. But powerful men understand something dangerous. Silence is tension. Silence is pressure. Silence is control. And once you learn how to sit comfortably inside that pressure, while everyone else starts mentally collapsing around you, your entire presence changes. Think about how people behave when they know they can emotionally pull reactions out of you. They tease you because they know you'll defend yourself. They disrespect you because they know you'll argue. They provoke you because they know they can access your emotions whenever they want. You become predictable, and predictable men are easy to dominate, easy to manipulate, easy to replace. But the moment your reactions disappear, the entire dynamic shifts. Suddenly people don't know where they stand with you anymore, and that uncertainty starts eating at them quietly. You've probably experienced this before without even noticing it. Maybe you sent a long emotional message trying to explain yourself to a woman who was already pulling away. Paragraph after paragraph, clarifying your intentions, exposing your emotions, trying to communicate maturely. And what happened? Her respect dropped in real time. You could feel it. The energy changed. Because deep down, people don't respect emotional exposure under pressure. They respect emotional control. Meanwhile, the man who simply pulled back without explanation became the one she kept thinking about at 2 a.m. The silence haunted her more than the paragraphs ever could. That's the psychological truth nobody says openly. Silence forces people to confront their own imagination. And human imagination is brutal. The moment you stop reacting, people begin creating stories in their own head. Is he angry? Did I lose him? Is he done with me? Does he know something? Your silence becomes a mirror reflecting their own anxiety back at them. The less readable you are, the more mentally exhausting you become to other people. That's why calm men feel intimidating without saying anything threatening at all. And no, this is not about acting cold in some fake, alpha male performance. People can smell insecurity disguised as silence instantly. Weak silence looks nervous, avoidant, fragile. The man avoids eye contact, shifts his posture, tries too hard to look detached while internally panicking. That energy repels respect. But controlled silence is different. Controlled silence is stillness. A man fully relaxed under tension, fully comfortable being misunderstood, fully aware that he does not owe immediate emotional access to anyone. That kind of silence changes rooms. You see it in business meetings, relationships, even among male friendships. The man who speaks the least often controls the frame, because everyone else starts unconsciously seeking his reaction. They start explaining more, revealing more, performing more, and while they're exposing themselves emotionally, he's simply observing, collecting information, studying weaknesses without giving away his own. Most people don't realize this, but whoever reveals the most in an interaction usually loses power first. That's why unreadable men create obsession. Human beings become addicted to solving what they cannot fully understand. The more emotionally available you are, the faster people consume you psychologically. But when there's mystery, restraint, emotional discipline, people keep replaying interactions with you in their mind, trying to decode you, trying to figure out what you were really thinking, trying to regain certainty. And certainty is comfort. Your silence removes that comfort. That is power. Number 3. One of the fastest ways to lose power as a man is to start explaining yourself to people who were never asking in good faith to begin with. Most questions are not questions. They're tests. Subtle little probes designed to measure your confidence, your emotional stability, your need for approval. And the moment you start over-explaining, you fail the test without even realizing it. You think you're being mature, rational, emotionally intelligent. But what people actually see is uncertainty. They see a man trying to earn permission for his own decisions. You've probably lived this already. A woman questions why you took hours to reply, and suddenly you're typing paragraphs trying to sound reasonable. A friend mocks one of your choices in front of other people, and you instantly begin defending your logic with this nervous energy underneath your words. Your family questions your boundaries, your standards, your direction in life, and before you know it, you're standing there explaining your existence like a suspect in an interrogation room. Stop for a second and really think about that. Why are you defending decisions that already came from your own mind? Why are you asking other people to emotionally approve what you already chose? Because most men are addicted to validation and don't even know it. That's the uncomfortable truth. Over-explaining is rarely about communication. It's about anxiety. It's the fear of being misunderstood, disliked, rejected, abandoned. So men keep talking, keep clarifying, keep emotionally exposing themselves, hoping if they just explain well enough, people will finally respect them. But reality works in the opposite direction. The more desperately you try to make people understand you, the less authority your words carry. Because calm certainty never chases approval. Look closely at men who naturally command respect. They don't rush to justify every move they make. They make decisions, state them once, and let the silence settle. There's no emotional leakage, no nervous over-talking, no need to convince the room. And because of that, people instinctively treat their words as final. Not because they're louder, but because they seem internally resolved. That's what most men lack today, internal resolution. Too many men secretly need consensus before they can trust themselves. And people can feel that weakness immediately. The dangerous part is that once someone realizes you constantly explain yourself, they learn they can pressure you emotionally. They learn that if they question you long enough, guilt you hard enough, challenge you publicly enough, eventually you'll start folding. You'll start negotiating your own standards. You'll start betraying your instincts just to restore emotional comfort. That's why manipulative people ask endless questions. Not to understand you, to exhaust your certainty. Think about how many men lose themselves this way in relationships alone. A man says he needs space, then spends the next hour apologizing for needing space. A man sets a boundary, then immediately softens it because he feels guilty for disappointing someone. A man knows something feels wrong deep in his gut, but instead of standing firm, he enters debate mode, defending his instincts to people who benefit from him doubting himself. And little by little, his authority collapses. Power begins returning the moment you become comfortable being misunderstood. That's the shift. The moment you stop feeling this compulsive need to explain your every decision, your energy changes completely. You become calmer, harder to manipulate, harder to bait emotionally. You stop speaking from insecurity and start speaking from certainty. No becomes a complete sentence. Silence becomes a boundary. And people slowly realize they are no longer dealing with a man they can emotionally corner. Most men think power comes from saying more. In reality, power often comes from needing to say less. Number 4. Most men become easy to control the moment people figure them out. That's the real problem. Not weakness, not lack of ambition, not even lack of confidence. Predictability. Once people can map your emotional patterns, your reactions, your limits, your needs, they stop respecting you and start managing you. They know when you'll forgive, when you'll chase, when you'll react emotionally, when you'll fold under pressure. And from that moment on, every interaction becomes manipulation disguised as connection. This is why some men slowly lose power in relationships without understanding what happened. At the beginning, there was tension, mystery, uncertainty. She didn't fully know him yet. Every text carried weight. Every absence created curiosity. But then he became too available, too emotionally consistent, too easy to read. Good morning texts every day, instant replies, same tone, same reactions, same emotional accessibility. And slowly, without either of them saying it out loud, the tension died. Because certainty is comfortable, but comfort rarely creates obsession. People are addicted to emotional patterns. Once they understand yours, they stop paying attention. That's why the man who is always warm becomes invisible. The man who is always angry becomes manageable. The man who is always available becomes replaceable. Predictability removes psychological tension, and tension is what keeps people emotionally invested. This is something most men completely fail to understand. They think consistency means constantly giving the same emotional access. It doesn't. True consistency is being solid in your values while remaining impossible to emotionally pin down. That's where strategic unpredictability changes everything. Not fake mood swings, not childish games, not acting cold for attention like insecure boys on the internet pretending to be alpha. Real unpredictability is quieter than that, more calculated, more dangerous. It's when people never fully know where they stand with you because your reactions are based on standards they cannot completely decode. One day you're warm, calm, present. The next day you become distant the moment someone subtly disrespects your boundaries, and you never explain why the energy changed. That silence forces people into self-analysis. They start replaying conversations in their head, trying to locate the exact moment they lost access to your warmth. And that mental replay is power. Think about the men people become obsessed with. It's rarely the loudest man in the room. It's the one nobody fully understands. The one who can be deeply present in a moment, then disappear into silence without warning. The one who never seems emotionally dependent on outcomes. Human beings become psychologically attached to uncertainty, because uncertainty creates emotional tension. Casinos are built on this principle. Social media algorithms are built on it. Modern dating is poisoned by it. The unpredictable reward creates addiction. Most men destroy their own leverage because they reveal too much consistency too early. They show exactly how much they care, exactly how available they are, exactly what affects them emotionally. And once someone knows your emotional formula, they unconsciously stop fearing your absence. That's when disrespect quietly begins. A dangerous man operates differently. He does not react the same way twice to the same behavior. He observes first, calculates first. Sometimes he lets something slide without emotion. Other times he cuts access immediately over something small, and nobody fully understands where the line truly is. That uncertainty forces people to stay alert around him, careful around him, present around him, because human beings naturally become cautious around what they cannot predict. And the most powerful part, he never explains the system. No emotional speeches, no dramatic warnings, no desperate attempts to be understood. People just feel the shift. One day they had access to him, the next day the door feels closed. The warmth disappears, the attention disappears, the emotional certainty disappears, and suddenly they realize something terrifying. They were never controlling the dynamic as much as they thought they were. That is strategic unpredictability. Not chaos. Not instability. Controlled uncertainty. Number 5. The difference between the dog and the wolf has nothing to do with strength. That's the part most men never understand. The dog can bite. The dog can fight. The dog can protect. But deep down, the dog still needs permission to exist. That's why so many men today walk around exhausted, anxious, emotionally leaking everywhere, pretending they're good men, when in reality they're just domesticated, trained, conditioned, rewarded for obedience. You see it everywhere. The man who instantly replies to every message because he's terrified of losing attention. The man who explains himself constantly because he cannot handle being misunderstood. The man who becomes emotional the second he feels disrespected because his entire identity depends on external validation. Society calls that vulnerability. In reality, it's exposure, and exposed men are easy to manipulate. The dog reacts to everything because the dog is emotionally owned by everything. One cold text ruins his day. One woman pulling away destroys his confidence. One insult online keeps him awake at night, replaying imaginary arguments in his head. That's not power. That's slavery with a smile on its face. And the worst part is most men don't even realize they're living like this. They think being endlessly available makes them valuable. They think over-explaining themselves makes them honest. They think emotional transparency makes them real. But watch carefully how the world actually responds to men like that. People use them, drain them, disrespect them quietly, then replace them the second someone stronger enters the room. Now look at the wolf. The wolf understands something dangerous. Silence creates tension. Emotional control creates authority. Scarcity creates value. The wolf doesn't rush to prove himself because he knows desperate men are the easiest men to control. Think about the man everyone secretly watches when he enters a room. Usually he's not the loudest, not the funniest, not even the most attractive. He's the calmest, the least reactive. The man whose face reveals nothing. The man who doesn't chase attention because he already owns himself internally. That energy unsettles people because most humans are addicted to emotional predictability. They need reactions from you to feel powerful over you. And this is where most men fail the transformation. Because becoming the wolf sounds exciting, until they realize what it costs. You will lose people when you stop overgiving. You will disappoint people when you stop explaining yourself. Some will call you cold, simply because they no longer have emotional access to you. That's the hidden truth nobody talks about. The moment a man becomes harder to manipulate, people accuse him of changing. But of course, he changed. Weakness was killing him. There's a reason powerful men throughout history mastered emotional restraint before anything else. Because whoever controls his reactions controls the frame. And whoever controls the frame controls the interaction. The wolf understands that revealing every emotion is like showing your hand in poker before the game even starts. Most men sabotage themselves because they cannot sit in silence. They need to text again, speak again, explain again, beg again. Meanwhile, the wolf waits, observes, lets people reveal themselves completely. And no, this doesn't mean becoming cruel. That's what insecure men do when they misunderstand power. The wolf isn't emotional because he's empty. He's controlled because he's disciplined. There's a difference. Real power is being capable of intensity without constantly displaying it. Real danger is potential, not noise. A wolf doesn't need to announce itself. The room feels it before it speaks. That's the choice in front of every man now. Stay domesticated, emotionally predictable, easy to control, or become the man people can't quite figure out anymore. The man who moves carefully, speaks less, observes more, and never hands people the keys to his emotional state again. Number 6. Here's the mistake almost everyone makes when they first learn about power. They swing too far to one side. Some become obsessed with being feared, so they turn cold, aggressive, emotionally distant, trying to dominate every room with intimidation. You've seen these men before. Loud voice, forced eye contact, fake emotional detachment, constantly trying to look dangerous. But underneath all of it is insecurity. Because fear by itself is unstable. The moment people stop fearing consequences, they stop respecting the man completely. In fact, they usually resent him long before that. They smile in his face, then wait quietly for the moment he slips so they can tear him apart. That's the weakness of fear without respect. It creates compliance, but never loyalty. The opposite extreme is just as pathetic, even if society praises it more. The man who is respected for being kind, loyal, emotionally available, understanding, endlessly patient. Everybody likes him. Everybody says he's a good man. But watch what actually happens to him in real life. People interrupt him constantly, cross his boundaries casually, cancel plans on him without guilt, use his time, attention, resources, emotional energy like they're entitled to it. Why? because there's no consequence attached to losing him. Deep down, everyone knows he'll still be there tomorrow, smiling politely, trying to understand everybody else, while nobody truly fears disappointing him. That's the brutal truth nobody teaches men. Respect alone does not protect you. Fear alone does not sustain you. Real power lives in the balance between the two. Think about the people who actually change the atmosphere when they enter a room. Not because they're loud, but because their presence carries weight. People respect them, yes, but there's also caution around them. A silent awareness that crossing certain lines will permanently change access to that person. And that's where untouchable power begins, when people admire your value while simultaneously fearing the consequences of losing you. You build the first half through competence, through becoming valuable enough that your absence is felt. A man with discipline, options, emotional control, purpose, standards, skills, naturally creates respect because people sense substance in him. He isn't begging to be chosen. He isn't emotionally starving. He doesn't feel replaceable because his entire identity isn't built around external validation. That alone changes how people treat you. But the second half is where most men fail completely. Consequences. Not loud threats, not emotional speeches, not dramatic ultimatums. Consequences delivered through silence and action. That's what creates real psychological weight. The moment somebody crosses a serious boundary, you remove access calmly. No arguing, no explaining, no desperate attempts to fix communication. You simply detach. And what terrifies people is not the anger, it's the emotional certainty behind the withdrawal. You've probably seen this dynamic yourself. A man who keeps forgiving everything eventually becomes invisible. His words lose impact because nobody believes he'll ever leave. Meanwhile, the man who quietly disappears after disrespect becomes unforgettable. Not because he shouted, not because he threatened anyone, but because his absence suddenly forces people to confront what they lost. And that silence creates replay value inside people's minds. They revisit conversations, reanalyze moments, question themselves, wonder if they crossed a line they didn't even see. That's psychological power. Because the strongest boundary is not aggression, it's the ability to permanently remove your presence without emotional chaos. Most people are addicted to access, addicted to certainty, addicted to knowing you'll always be there no matter how badly they behave. The moment they realize you are fully capable of disappearing without explanation, the dynamic changes instantly. That is the balance. Valuable enough to respect, detached enough to fear losing, calm enough to never need to announce either one. Let's make one thing clear before you misunderstand everything I've said. This was never about becoming heartless. Never about turning into some angry man who trusts nobody and walks around trying to intimidate the world. That's not power. That's unresolved pain wearing a mask. Real power is quieter than that, colder, more disciplined. This was about ending the version of you that people felt completely safe disrespecting. The version that over-explained, over-gave, over-forgave, overextended himself emotionally just to keep people comfortable. The version that kept handing out endless chances while secretly wondering why nobody seemed afraid of losing him. You were taught that patience automatically creates respect, that if you kept being understanding long enough, people would eventually value you correctly. So you became emotionally available to everyone, always explaining your intentions, always trying to prove your loyalty, always trying to communicate better, forgive faster, love harder. And maybe the hardest truth of all, people rarely rewarded you for it. They consumed it. They benefited from it. They got comfortable with it. Because human beings naturally relax around people they know they can't lose. That's why your silence suddenly changes everything. The moment you stop reacting instantly, people feel it. The moment you stop explaining every boundary, every emotion, every decision, the dynamic shifts. Suddenly there's tension where certainty used to be. Suddenly people realize they can no longer predict you emotionally. And that's uncomfortable for them, because most people build relationships around access and control. They want to know exactly how far they can push you without consequences, exactly what words trigger you, exactly how much disrespect you'll tolerate before folding back into emotional negotiation. But now, you move differently. You stop treating your attention like something cheap. You stop trying to convince people to understand your value. You stop chasing closure from people who benefited from misunderstanding you in the first place. And that's when something strange starts happening. The same people who once ignored your presence begin noticing your absence. The same people who took your patience for granted suddenly become careful with their words. Not because you threaten them, but because your energy no longer feels emotionally available on demand. You've probably experienced this already without realizing it. Think about the times you finally became emotionally detached after being pushed too far. Not dramatic, not explosive, just done, calm, silent, gone internally. And suddenly the people who ignored your feelings became desperate to reconnect. They sensed the shift immediately, because people don't fear anger nearly as much as they fear emotional removal. Anger still shows attachment. Silence after disappointment feels final. That's why absence hits harder than arguments ever will. A loud man may get attention for a moment, but eventually people adapt to noise. Emotional men get studied, decoded, controlled. Predictable men become safe to disrespect because everyone already knows exactly how they'll react. But unreadable men, they stay inside people's minds. People replay conversations with them, overanalyze their silence, wonder what they're truly thinking, wonder whether they've permanently lost access. Mystery creates psychological weight in a way emotional exposure never will. And this is where most men fail. They think respect comes from demanding it verbally. It doesn't. Real respect comes from emotional discipline, from standards enforced without drama, from being fully capable of walking away without needing the other person to agree with your reasons. That's why powerful men rarely explain themselves repeatedly. They understand something most people never learn. Once you begin arguing for your value, you've already lowered it. Perception controls everything. The man who remains calm under disrespect appears dangerous. The man who stays composed while others become emotional appears dominant. The man who can disappear without warning appears impossible to control. That is power, not noise, not aggression, not constant emotional performance. Presence, restraint, silence. Because silence was never weakness. Silence was the warning people failed to recognize until it was too late.